Hi, everyone. This is Bailey from the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast. I am with my mentor, Mo. That's been my mentor for 49 years that we like to joke about.
Been a while.
So, yeah, I just wanted to, I feel like leadership and mentorship has such a old person type of connotation or denotation, whatever the right word is to it. And so I just wanted to show that it's for younger people too, and it is really just about relationships. I had a ton of questions for Mo about toxic relationships because that's the buzzword that you hear literally everywhere on TikTok, on Instagram. Like everything is toxic, everyone's a narcissist, and it's just so confusing. So I kind of wanted to hear how that went, how that played along with leadership and relationships and influence. Because like you hear the word influencer all the time. What is that? What is that? Because I don't feel influenced. That's why I asked you a question.
Yeah,
Can I
sure.
just ask you a question now? Okay. So in our generation, everyone is using the word toxic. And I think what they're trying to say is that they're somebody in their life, whether it's their friend, family, boyfriend, somebody in their life is negatively influencing them and making them feel bad about themselves or their relationship with that person. So that's kind of like the definition of what toxic really even means nowadays. So when you are like, how would you say that? What is my question?
Well, let me ask you a question, babe.
Wait, okay, go ahead.
So what generation are you in?
I believe, no, you've always gotten this wrong. You've always confused what I'm actually saying. I think that I'm in Generation Z, and you always thought that I was fighting to be a millennial. But I was always fighting to be Generation Z, so then I wasn't really sure what we were fighting about because we were both on the same side, so I was not sure
Well, what year
what
were you
was
born,
happening.
babe?
I
What
was
what
born in
what year were you born?
1997.
And for our listeners out there, 1997 is now the new cutoff, babe, for Generation Z. So you are the first year, as of now, of Generation Z. You made it.
I really
You
did. I
you,
feel very proud about that.
you started from the bottom, and now you're here. You, is that what the kids say?
So they would say
No,
like actually Generation Z will say or Alpha, whatever they are, they'll say it's Sigma. Is that right? It's Sigma? Maybe that means
Sigma.
cool.
What
I
is
actually don't know.
Sigma means cool, man. So if you're born between 97 and 2009, you are Generation Z. And so, babe, talk to me about toxic relationships in your generation because the way that you and your generation deal with relationships is way different than the millennials, than Generation X for sure, the boomers, etc. So go for it.
I would say toxic relationships nowadays can either be extremely passive or like very in your face. Like I feel like usually toxic relationships in the past might have been like more passive, but this one it can be either one. But I think especially with social media and people posting about their lives, it's so easy to send things about other people's lives to other people to just start talking about them. And sometimes it can be seen as like to your face nice, but then you hear from your other friends that it's like actually not nice. There's a lot of hidden lingos, places. It's really hard to describe and actually find out if somebody is toxic in your life.
So let me ask you this then, because everybody has seen the movie Mean Girls. I think even young
Yes.
kids are right. So toxic relationships, be nice in front of somebody's face and talk behind their back, and your relationships, babe, with your friends, for instance. But like that's nothing new. So how is it different now? Because for instance, like with Mean Girls, like we didn't have the kind of social media and stuff that we have now. And so, like as an old person, I'm Generation X. I can't even imagine what it is to just be like. I mean, now we're all on 24 hours. Like you're on an iPad, right? You're on my computer taking notes. You're taking notes on your iPhone. Like your life is at your fingertips.
Yeah,
So how
totally.
how do kids, how do young people do it these days? Because
I know. And there's such a difference between like being mean. Because, for example, like I posted on TikTok one time a long time ago about the state that I went on, and people just roasted me in the comments of like, oh my God, this girl's so annoying. There's like a difference between like mean comments and then like a relationship you actually have with somebody that you would call friend that is like negatively impacting you. So I think people these days are calling random strangers toxic that they don't even know.
If they're not part of your life, or is everybody part of your life now? I guess
Yeah,
again because
exactly.
I'm from a generation where like I would get on my bicycle in the morning and I'd leave for a full day and I wouldn't get home until the street lights were on. My parents never knew where I was. And so like the only toxic relationships that I had were people that I like, played sports with and didn't like for whatever reason, or like, like certain friend groups and stuff. But like now people from different countries, people you don't even know. So your generation just cares about that. You can't get away from that.
We, I think, are extremely, extremely, extremely sensitive, extremely sensitive. And I think that for some purposes it's good. I think it brought a lot of awareness to things. But I think in other cases, everybody just views themselves as a victim. And so for me, when I was getting all those comments on my TikTok, I was like poor me. I had to turn my comments off. I was so embarrassed. I was like, I'm
Really?
victim. I was so embarrassed. This was like literally one video that so happened to get views. Like this was like I'm not yeah, this is not a regular occurrence. And I just had one video that was bad comments and I turned off my comments because I couldn't handle it. I think we like kind of can't handle people have opinion. I think it's really tough, even if the opinion is harsh or mean or whatever the case is.
So what does a young person do if they're having toxic relationships? What kind of toxic relationships are we talking about here? How do people stay away from that? What can they do?
Yes,
Because
I have
well,
1,000 questions for you that I haven't asked.
that's all right. We're never so we're lucky we're not sitting at like Chick-fil-A or Starbucks because 4 hours later was like what were we talking about?
Yeah. I think the first question that I would want to ask you is like how do you first determine if someone really is toxic in your life? Like how do you decipher between people that are just in your comments and are mean and have maybe toxic behavior? Like what is a toxic like relationship, whether that's a friend, a coworker, boyfriend, girlfriend? Like what how would you say that like what would you say that is?
You gave me a definition when we were talking about toxic relationships. What is it? And then I'll speak to that.
AI's definition of toxicity is a person who can bring negativity and conflict into your life. They can be manipulative, controlling, and abusive, and their behaviors can have lasting negative impacts on those around them.
Yeah. You don't control anybody else. You only control you, right? My producer talks to me about this and she'll be like, Mo, what about these comments or whatever? And I'm just like, what? Like, I don't even read the comments. She does because she's my producer. But I'm just like, I guess I don't care enough. And I'm kind of like, oh, any publicity is good publicity, I guess. But I get it. Like you said, you had a TikTok video and turned it off after
I
you got
couldn't.
some
Yeah, I
negative.
couldn't.
I think about all these people, guys, girls, whatever, your age and younger, and they're posting these videos, and then I look at the comments, and the comments are just like killing people. It's like people just are trying to be jerks, essentially,
Yeah.
right? And so when we're talking about toxic relationships, the question that I have is, are you allowing yourself to be abused by these people? Because
Mm,
if they're not speaking in your life, then what does it matter? And so something that I've said to you, Bay, for like how long we've known each other now, about 100 years, right? You can't control what other people do, but you can control the way that you respond. And I think in your case, for instance, take the whole TikTok thing. You couldn't control what people were doing, but at some point you said, I got to take control of this. And so what'd you do? You turned off your comments. Well, that was a good decision because you don't need to have that kind of negativity in your life. A toxic relationship is a relationship that is abuse of power, being bullied. How many of us out there have been bullied before? And especially now, I don't know how kids do it today. Everybody's getting bullied, right? On the internet, gossiping about somebody, using something like it said on the AI to manipulate others. But you know
sure.
what? What I would say, Babe, to you and to all of my listeners who are younger out there is this: just cut off the negativity. I know it's hard to do that because it's only a click away. I've told you this 1,000 times for everybody out there. I have enough negativity in my life. I have enough people
Oh,
that are complaining. I need more cheerleaders in my life. You need more cheerleaders in your life. So, Babe, and for everybody, think about this. If somebody isn't speaking goodness into your life, then you don't really need them in your life. Which brings me to my other point on this, Bay. And again, I've told you this. When somebody says something negative about me or whatever, I just say, hey, lucky for me and lucky for you, there's 3 people in my life that I care about their opinion. And guess what? You're not one of them.
You're not one of
Well,
them.
that's good for you and that's good for me. And so you need to, again, take control. And Bay, you said something good. Everybody is looking for the victim mentality. Take control of your life. Nobody can control you that you don't let control you. And so I guess the question for you and for Gen Zers out there, and even the younger, the alpha generation, which are the kids that are, really young, can you do that? Like, is that a possibility in today's world? Can kids really do that?
I mean, I feel like the reason why it's hard to not get that feedback or listen to that insight is because you want to know how other people are viewing you. So if other people are viewing, like that TikTok, for example, if other people really are viewing me as like a selfish person, I would want to fix that behavior. So I think it like just mentally messes with you because even though you know you're not doing anything wrong, it still makes you believe that you're in a different reality almost because these people that don't know the story or know the context are already assuming that you are the way that they think that you are. So it's hard to get away from that because when you're a creator or you're like putting stuff out there, you want that to hit. You want it to hit well. You want it to like resonate with people. When I was posting that TikTok, I wanted people to be like, "Oh my gosh, totally." That was kind of what I was looking for, but no, I had other boys in my DMs saying, "You look like Sarah Palin." So
What?
so like exactly. I just like don't. I was
What
laughing.
does that mean? That doesn't have anything. That's just
No, I
somebody trying to be.
know. But then I looked at the photo and I was like, wait, I kind of do look like Sarah Palin. And then I was like,
What?
kind of like, and then I
What?
got sad. And then that's when I turned off my comment.
You do not look like Sarah Palin. No, there's nothing wrong. Sarah Palin is very pretty, but I wouldn't have thought Sarah Palin. That's hilarious.
Yes, exactly.
What
No,
is
not
going on
at
here?
all. No.
That's the comment you remember? You look like Sarah Palin?
How can you, or do you feel like, okay, just with this kind of toxic behavior, like maybe those people that are commenting on all your stuff, like about the negative comments, or people that have a lot of backlash to give you, even if they're your close friend, do you feel like they know that they're doing that? And it's like a lack of self-awareness. But do you think it's a lack of self-awareness where they don't know they're doing it at all, and that's just their tone, and maybe that they're dealing with something on their own, or do you feel like they're intentionally trying to hurt you? I think that's been something I'm like been wrestling with too, of like, are they just knowing anything? Because speaking for myself, I'm the most non-observant person somebody could walk. I've literally had people drive by on the freeway with me, like honking, waving their hands at me, Bailey, Bailey, like, oh my God, that's my friend Bailey, like waving. And I don't, they texted me like, did you see me? Like I was honking at you for like 10 minutes. Like, did you see me? I'm like, no, I'm not observant. So is it a self-awareness issue or is it like a mean person issue?
It's both. I mean, if somebody's focused on you, then there's obviously something going on. Because I don't have time to think about being mean to somebody else because I'm trying to take care of my own stuff. I'm trying to keep my head above water. So when people go out of their way to be jerks, there's definitely something going on there. And so it probably has to do with their own, self-esteem or lack of self-esteem. But there's definitely a lack of self-awareness. Absolutely. So, but we've talked a lot about emotional intelligence 2.0, right? And in that book, it talks about 2 important things: self-awareness and social awareness. And I think that people don't have social awareness anymore because all of the stuff we're just talking about right now. It's social P's and Q's and how you treat people. And if you could step out of your body and look at the way you are in a situation, that's how you should, treat other people. Is like, if you were to look at yourself and be like, man, that guy's a jerk, that girl's a jerk. Well, then, you have social awareness because you can see that. But your self-awareness, I mean, you've got to be able to work on yourself. And you can't work on yourself when you're putting somebody else down. There's a great book that I've read a couple times. A lot of people like this book. A lot of people don't. but it's by a guy named David Goggins. Have you heard of David Goggins?
Is he the runner?
He's a runner now, yeah, but he was a Navy SEAL, and he writes a couple of books. But his book called Can't Hurt Me, it's a great book. It's kind of a guy's book. It's about him going through SEAL training and his whole journey, and it's incredible. I love it. Like when I need to get fired up, I just put on the David Goggins podcast. In his book, Can't Hurt Me, he says, I'm not saying these things to tell you to get off the couch and do these things to tell you that you're not worth it. He said, I'm doing because I'm the person who wasn't worth it. I had low self-esteem. I put other people down because I had low self-esteem in myself. And now he says, I don't judge anybody because I know how it is. I know how it is to be rock bottom. Now, if you've seen the guy, he runs these like 100-mile races and stuff like that. But the dude used to be like 350 pounds, down on his luck. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't know that, would you?
No,
It's
not at all.
crazy. I'm telling you, Bay, it's a great book. And if you want to read it, I will read it again with you. But he really talks about focus on yourself and don't worry about what other people say. And so here's the message that I want to give you and all young people out there with toxic relationships. If you're in a relationship with somebody new or somebody old kind of abusing you in different ways, you got to get rid of it. I'm not telling you how to get rid of that relationship. I'm just telling you that you have to. Here's the thing, Bay. When you go one step further with toxic relationships, when you can tell yourself, look, I don't care what other people say about me. I'm focused on getting better. I'm focused on the cheerleaders in my life, and I'm focused on going forward. Then you don't worry about that noise that comes in your life. It's a lot easier said than done, right? Because Bay, we've been talking about this for years now, and you're still going through it. And so, like, that's why I was excited to talk about toxic relationships with you because, I mean, we've got them in our lives just at home and relationships at work as well because they're all over the place. So get rid of your toxic relationships. I mean, you've got to get people in your life that can tell you that relationships are toxic. I was a women's swim coach for a long time. How many girls did you swim with and against, Bay, that had toxic relationships? Go ahead.
I was gonna say I was one of them. Like I feel like looking back on this like a self-awareness piece, I was absolutely one of them. So it's just to say it's a lot of people anyway.
No, that's it. So everybody get rid of your toxic relationships. You don't need them. Done. Period. Boom.
I feel like we didn't hit anything that I wanted to talk about like at all. And so like I think we should go for another 30.
Give me a couple more questions. Let's do it.
Okay. This is the question I really want to ask. Okay. We always talk about servant leadership and being there for other people and kind of like laying your life down for the people you serve. That's what we are called to do when we are servant leaders. When does that start to become wrong? Because you are, what is the right word? You are
enabling.
You are enabling the toxic person in your life. Aren't you supposed to like kind of just turn the other cheek in this situation? Or like how do you go about servant leadership when you're serving toxic people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So now for our listeners out there, there's different kinds of leadership, right? There's transactional leadership, which is if you do this, then I'll do this for you, right? You know, clean this room and I'll let you go home early. Okay. In the Army, we have a lot of transactional leadership. There's also transformational leadership, meaning you want to transform both yourself and other people in the process. There's charismatic leadership. Charismatic leadership is pretty much leadership that's based on the personality of the actual leader. Servant leadership is about serving other people, and because you serve them, they come alongside you and they buy into you. And John Maxwell says in 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, if you want to have people follow you and follow what you're going to do and be a part of what you're doing, people always follow the leader first and then they follow the vision. So if you've got a great vision, but you're not a good leader, people aren't going to follow you. If you're a decent leader, but you don't have a vision, people are still going to follow you to the point where you better do something and have a vision and give them something to follow you for. When it comes to servant leadership, I think what you're saying is sometimes we're trying to serve people so much that sometimes they end up bogging us down. They're pulling us down, right? They're stopping us from being able to do things that are helpful for the rest of the team. It's not helpful for them anymore because you're just serving and serving and serving, and they're just not getting it, right?
Mhm.
Okay. If that's the case, the father of servant leadership, Robert Greenleaf, says this in his book. The book, shockingly, is called Servant Leadership, A Journey into the Nature of Legitimate Power and Greatness. A leader, at some point, a leader has to say this: I will go, I will go. Come with me, if you will. Sometimes, babe, that's just what we need to do if you want to be a servant leader. And if anybody wants to read my dissertation for my doctorate, it was on servant leadership. And I think, Bay, I sent you a copy before and you skimmed through it. And I'm still learning. But I read everything on servant leadership. And Robert Greenleaf would say that, yes, you want to serve others. I've been in ministry for a long time. I've been a pastor and still am. And so Jesus himself was a servant leader. But Jesus never waited for anybody. He just went and said, hey, you coming? Because we're going. And so for our leaders out there, yes, you want to have a servant's heart. But you are definitely somebody who aspires to be a servant leader. And we've been talking a lot even lately about being at work and having influence and being able to help other people and being able to serve people. Everybody loves a servant leader because it's good for them, but you don't want to become an enabler. And so for
Right.
me, I try to be a servant leader. My whole goal when I was coaching you, Bay, back in college was, how can I serve Bailey? How can I serve the other girls? And I'm not going to let them take advantage of me. And if it ever got to that, I just didn't put time into people anymore. If somebody wasn't responding, I was the first one to say, I'm not going to give anymore. I don't have time for that. The way that I do leadership now is with people who I am coaching, mentoring, my clients. If they're not responding, I always have a conversation. And I've had to do this before and say, look, it doesn't sound like we're moving to the next step. We're stuck here. I'm not sure if this is good for you or me. And so let's just stop the relationship. And sometimes that's the best thing that you can do.
Mm.
When you're at work, and for our listeners out there, who are the people that are responding to the things that you are doing? If you are leading one person or two people or a team of people, like you and I have been talking about, always look for the people who are responding. Those are the people that are going to get more of my time. It's different for like at home. If you need to lead your family, well, they're your family. So you can't be like, well, sorry, no more. I mean, that's something different. But when we're at work, the question I always ask is, are people responding well to what I'm giving? Because I've been on the journey for a long time. I have my mentors and coaches, and you know all of them, and you've been able to glean wisdom through me from them. But if people aren't responding, then I just see it, well, people aren't earning my time anymore. I've only got so much time. You've only got so much time, Bailey. Our listeners out there, you've only got so much time. So who is earning the time for your leadership? Because you should be working hard to be a good leader. You should be doing things to get better every day. You should be reading something right now. You should be listening to podcasts right now. You should be talking to other people who are smarter and better than you right now. If you haven't read anything in the last 2 weeks, you've got nothing good to say to me, because I need people who are speaking into my life. When I am going to talk to Bailey, when I'm going to talk to you, I think to myself, what kind of value do I have to add? Because if you're a leader, as John Maxwell would say in chapter 21 of the Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, if you're not adding value to people every day, then what is your leadership really doing anyway? Because I'm looking to be a person of influence. I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be a person of influence. I want you to be a person of influence. I want my audience to be people of influence. And that's why we do these things. So what are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you doing in your daily life? And part of that is getting rid of the toxicity in your life. Those people that are taking from you and you are enabling, because it's not their fault, it's your fault. And let me tell you something that you've heard 1,000 times before, and to all of our listeners out there are no bad teams. There are only bad leaders. Because if your team is bad, it's because you are not doing a good job. So you need to look in the mirror. And so when my people aren't doing well, whether it's my swimmers or my congregation at church or the people at Rising Tide or anything else that I have influence over, I don't have a victim mentality. I say, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to change? It's not Bailey's fault. It's my fault, because if I'm enabling Bailey as a swimmer, for instance, then it's my fault. I'm the leader. The buck stops here. Whoever takes responsibility is the leader. So the question is, are you taking responsibility? Take responsibility for your life. take responsibility for your relationships, and take responsibility to get rid of the things in your life, like those toxic relationships that you don't need.
Wow. That was incredible.
Oh,
No, it's actually so true because I feel like just with friendships of mine, it's so easy to be like, why is she like being so mean, or why is why are her actions like this, or but it's my decision to keep her as a friend, and it's my decision to keep her in my life. So it is my fault because if I didn't give her the influence on me, then I wouldn't be feeling so crappy. So that makes so much sense. And now I feel like an idiot. I'm kidding.
all right, one
Um,
more.
okay, one more. We'll get one more. Okay. What do you feel like are some common mistakes that leaders accidentally do to contribute to like the toxic behavior? Is there something you can like specifically you can call out like in me or other leaders or whatever that it's like there she goes. Point A, that's why that like here it goes. It's beginning now. That she started the toxic stuff. So no wonder her team is blowing up.
Yeah, it's really, I'm the one who creates culture for my team, right? Now, if I were to come into your place of business, Faye, give me 5 to 15 minutes to stand around the water cooler or the coffee machine and eat donuts or whatever in the morning, and I will know the culture right away. I'm a good judge of culture now because I've been doing it for so long that I'm looking to see how people treat each other. Now, if I spent a full day at your work, it'd be really easy, right? And so take it from a leader standpoint now, okay? If I walk into your place of business and I can tell you the culture, and I would say, babe, here's the culture. You're the leader. You need to create culture because the culture is what we do, right? Culture is nothing but a set of behaviors. You have them written down from what you want for your team. Because if you don't, then you are letting culture happen. When we see culture from the top down, because that's really what it is, what you decide for your team. So for instance, let's I wrote down 25 behaviors and I gave those 25 behaviors to my team and I said, these are the behaviors that we are going to that we're going to display. Just for the sake of giving you an example, it might say one of our behaviors is I am a punctual person. I'm a punctual person, meaning if I'm going to be on this team, I'm going to be on time. And so what happens when somebody is late? Well, they've just gone against that culture, right? And so there's repercussions for that. And so one of the repercussions might be that you come late and you might just say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm late. That's not part of what we're trying to do here. My bad. And then if it continues to happen again, then we have conversations. And then that allows me as the leader to say, hey, what's up? One of the behaviors that we're trying to live here is being punctual. What's going on? And then I'm not the jerk. Then I'm not
Right.
just coming out like why are you breathing down my back? Well, no, I'm asking you. This is what we've decided on, right? I'm like the buck stops here. I'm the one who was in charge. I said here's the things, the 5, 10, 15 things that we're subscribing to, the behaviors that we want. Another behavior might be I don't talk negative about people behind their backs. Man, if people actually implemented that in their culture at work, watch how it would change. Now, are people still going to talk about each other? Absolutely. It's going to happen. But now they know they're not supposed to. And now when something happens, somebody else can call them out. And really what I want is I want the team to self-regulate, right? Think about when you were on the swim team in college. And remember you became captain. You had all these great aspirations. Did they work?
Yeah, none.
They didn't work.
Literally,
Right? 0 stars, would not recommend. And why? Because it was trying to create something out of nothing. And leaders, what you need to do is, and your question was, am I doing something that's creating an environment that's leading to toxicity? And the answer is yes. Because you're the leader and it's always your fault, right? If you're the leader, it's always your fault. And so what you are doing is you are letting culture happen. Don't let culture happen. Start with behaviors. And if you have questions, ask me in the comments and I'd be happy to give you some of the things that I've done over the years. And when you do that, whether you take on a supervisor role or whatever, and you can do it in lots of different ways. For one of my staffs, what I used to do is I would send out an email and then I would have different people write that email, the Monday morning email, with all the housekeeping items and stuff like that, and they would get to write on one of the behaviors that we were doing. They write whatever they wanted. And so what happened was everybody on staff was seeing their peers write on specific behaviors. And then it was getting them to buy into that. You buy into the leader, then you buy into the vision, and that's part of the vision. So what are you doing as a leader to create toxicity? You're letting
Everything.
culture happen. Don't let culture happen, right?
And just to like bring it more on a micro scale, like if you aren't leading a team and you're trying to be a leader and you want to influence people, just like the close circle in your life, and like what would you say for people like that are trying to like what would you say to people like that? Like let's say me, I have a friend who is treating me negatively. It's really hard for me to I want to serve her. I want my best to serve her, so I try to talk to her about it and like see if there's any way we can resolve it. It doesn't work out. Like, is it okay to just like X out that friendship, or like how would you say leaders should go about their one-on-one relationships as well with toxicity? Like, is that just as important slash is that just as much our fault? Like, do you know what I'm trying to ask?
I do. And so let me take it from both angles. One is I have a friend, this is outside of work. We've tried to resolve it, all that kind of stuff. First of all, if you're in that part of your relationship, congratulations, because you've actually done the first thing, which is if you have a problem with somebody or the way they're treating you, but you have not told them that, it's not their fault, it's your fault. Because if somebody's doing something that annoys you or is being mean to you and you haven't confronted them about that, and I'm not saying it in a mean way, but if you haven't spoken up about that and you just expect them to change, that's your fault. That's not their fault. However, once you have that conversation, you say, hey, so-and-so, you've been doing this behavior and it's caused me some grief because of X, Y, and Z, and then they continue to do it, then the next conversation would probably be a redefinition of the relationship. And sometimes, yeah, that's getting rid of that relationship. And go ahead. What are your thoughts on
No,
that?
I was just sighing.
Well, and the thing is you don't got to be mean about that. But I've had relationships, friendships with people, and they just all of a sudden I'm not really spending much time with them because of the things that they do or the way that they act or whatever. And I'm still nice to them,
For
but they
sure.
realize that I just don't have time anymore. I don't have time. You don't have time. There are too many things that are going on that need your time and need your attention. And so, yes, you need to get rid of those relationships. And so if you don't get rid of those relationships, then that's on you, because now the only relationships you can't really get rid of are family relationships. Now, sometimes you do have to oust your family, but I mean, they're kind of that's it. I mean, if you're blood, those are the only ones, if you're married and you guys, that's it. I mean, you got kids, yes. But outside of that, it's like, well, I just don't need it in my life. So no, get rid of that.
I feel like that's where I would mess up, because you think that if you don't win at the relationship, then you're failing as a leader. And I think that's kind of where I struggle, because I want so badly to be able to mend things and for us to sing Kumbaya at the end of the day. Like, I want so badly friends and to be cordial and nice and loving. I think I have a very interesting, just to give some context, view on girl friendships, because I went to an all girls Catholic high school. I was in boxers every single day going to school, like under my, like, we didn't wear makeup, like it was just a mess. And we all loved each other. Like, seriously, I know that some people have really bad experiences when it comes to all girls high schools, but mine was in like a dream. I'm still best friends with like 6 of the girls that I went to school with in high school, and I love them. Nobody has ever, and I really do mean this, has talked bad about one another ever, like in our little high school friend group, which is probably very hard for some girls or people to imagine, because high school is usually like the core of that. But I feel like I'm kind of realizing that friends don't necessarily operate like that all the time as I'm getting older and seeing some other relationships play out in my life. And it's a bummer. Like, it makes me so sad, because you know me, like I'm the fun person. I just want to have fun. I just want to like be happy and like get along with everybody. And when that doesn't happen, it's sad, because I personally just don't want conflict, and I just want it to be a great relationship. So I think that's where I have been disappointed in myself as a leader, because I couldn't make the relationship work. And I think that's what's hard because I want to. And I think seeing it from your perspective of like, I can't control how the other people act. It helps me because that's right, it's true. But I still feel like as a leader, because it's all my fault, I take responsibility of it and like want to fix it. So like I think that's kind of the dilemma.
Yeah, so let me free you of that notion by saying this. Just when I said there are no bad teams, there are only bad leaders, right? So it would be well, it's always my fault, Mo, right? You always say it's my fault. So I need to fix it. I need to fix it. Right? That's where you're coming from right now. And you love people. That's just kind of you're like you've always been a people person. You still are. And so I know you want to mend every relationship. You want to make it good. And sometimes somebody at work might be a great person and hilarious, but they might be toxic or bad for the team. Okay. You can be both, right? You can sabotage the workload by having too much fun, right? Or whatever
Totally.
it is.
I do that
To
every
keep a healthy team, you need to remember this. Yes, there are no bad teams. There are only bad leaders. But a good leader makes sure that they have the right people on the team. And so we want to get the right people on the bus, right? You need to have the right people on the bus. If somebody is on the team and they keep on sabotaging the team or they're toxic, you've got to give people the benefit of the doubt. You got to help them. There's always something like we were talking about earlier on. Usually the reason people are acting out or being mean to you or other people or just not doing well is because something's going on, right? Like we've talked about times in your life where you were not productive at work because of things that were going on in your life. And I have to remember as a leader that when my people come in, that they're going through stuff. And my job is to help them as much as I can to grab onto the culture that I'm trying to create. However, if we have conversations and conversations and conversations and we get to the place where they're not getting it, there's a great book, and I don't know if you read Susan Scott's Fierce Conversations. Have you read that book?
No, but you've quoted it a lot.
Okay.
I know the book, yeah.
Right. So in that, Susan Scott, and she deals with CEOs and important people, and she's been dealing with teams and consulting for forever now. And she says it's never too late to have another conversation, right? And so if you have those conversations and have those conversations and have those conversations, but somebody still doesn't get it, you've got to get them off the bus because they're not helping. And that's not being a bad leader. That's being a good leader to say everybody else is. Let me ask you this, leaders. If everybody else has grabbed onto the vision except for one person, it's not you being a bad leader. It's somebody else that's not able to come under your leadership for whatever reason. It might be they just don't like you. It might be that they don't like the way the team's going. But you don't want to be on the New York Yankees if you want to have a full beard because part of the culture there is they shave every day. And so when you come on, that's part of the culture. That's what they do. If you go to the Red Sox, those guys all have beards. It's in the culture. It's what they do. Leaders, ask this next time somebody on your team just is not responding to you. Just actually go to them and just say, is this the right fit for you? Because I feel like everybody's grabbing onto this, and I really want you to grab onto this culture, but I just don't feel like it's happening. Am I missing something here? And let them talk, and you will be surprised. Either they're going to say, no, I just don't like it here, and I'm here just for the money or whatever, and at that point, you need to help them find another job or find a way to get off the team because you don't need somebody like that. But they might say, you know what? I'm really trying to be a part of this team. I just don't really know what to do, and I don't feel like I'm getting support from you or anybody. And then you're like, holy cow, I thought I've had all these conversations. And then you open up a dialogue. Give people the benefit of the doubt. However, if they are not a right culture fit for the team, you got to help them move on, whether that's firing them or moving them to a different department within the company. If it's a big company where maybe they'll work better under somebody else's leadership, they might say, man, I love the company. I just don't like you, Bailey. Okay, great. Let's get you to somebody else because I'm in charge of this team right now and I'm sorry. And maybe I won't be in a year, but right now I am. And it's my responsibility to help this team be good, right? That's sometimes helping your people. One time I had somebody and I was working for an organization and this person just did not like me. Everybody else was fine. If they didn't like me, they at least respected me enough to do what I needed them to do. And we were kind of going, and this one guy, he just wasn't getting it. And I said, hey, dude, what's up? And he's just like, man, I just don't like the way you do things. And I said, okay, well, I mean, what if I help you get a job somewhere else? And he was like, okay. So we did. And he got a job somewhere else and he did great. And it was we just didn't mesh together. And I was trying to serve him. I like
Mhm.
the guy. He didn't really like me, but I mean, there's few people that I don't like actually like dislike. I mean, most people
Mhm.
I'm looking at, if a grocery clerk is mean to me or somebody gives me a mean look. I mean, you're like me, Bay. Like I just kind of smile and wave at people, and I don't know. I don't have time to be mean to people. In fact, here I'll tell you what. I don't think I've told you this story before. So I was going to Mr. New's Chinese food, and I was
Where?
so hungry. Mr. New's Chinese food. There's got to be a Mr. New's in where
Is
do
it
you
like a
live at the
panda?
beach? Yeah. But it's like
More
it's
authentic.
bougie. Oh, dude, I love it.
Like
I
Din
love
Tai
Mr. You
Fung.
gotta. Was that? I don't even know what you just said.
Like
What?
Din Tai
Like
Fung.
I've never been there, but I feel like you're trying to say Dentai Sung, but you can't say it, so you're saying Dentai Thung. Okay, so next time I'm in California, I'll have to, you'll have to take me to Dentai Thung. But
Okay.
yes, Mr. Yu's is just Chinese food. I love it, but I was really hungry. Okay, that's the moral of the story. I was really hungry. So I'm flying into the parking lot, and I just whip right into this spot because I'm just like I got to get in there. I'm so hungry. I didn't see this guy, and I almost hit him. If he didn't jump out of the way, like kind of just like startled, I probably would have bumped this guy. This was a big dude. Okay, he was 6 foot something, just like imposing looking. He was already the guy you don't want to mess with anyway. And he just looks at me, and I'm like, oh man. So I was like, I gotta do something. So I just can't smile because I'm already astonished. So I rolled down my window, and he looks back at me like he's ready to fight. Like, and I was like, hey, sorry. And he was like, what do I do now? This guy just totally just said sorry, and he just kind of looked at me like kind of mean and kind of like trying not to smile, and he just kept walking or whatever. And I'm just like I don't got time. Like I don't know. Like why are people so upset? You know? And
For the
as
record,
a
Mo,
leader,
I've
yeah.
been in a car with Mo, and it is very scary, and he needs another driver's lesson.
Dude, remember that time when you called me and you're like, Mo, I just ran over the curb and I can't move my car? Did you ever, how did you get your car out?
No, it was 3 p.m. and I was trying to look cute in front of all these like the football team at college, and I tried to be so nonchalant, and I end up rolling my car over the freaking curb, and I don't know how to get. I have a Kia, like it's literally like what like the small Kia. I didn't even know how it got over the curb, but it did, and then I didn't know how to reverse from the curb, and then it was so loud and
So what'd you
just
do?
trying to be cute, you know. You told me to back up. You told me to
And
back
you
it
did,
up.
right?
I
Yeah.
did, and I think my car had a dent on it, but you know.
When it comes down to it, as a leader, you are the one who controls the situation. And so, yeah, you got to look out for your people. If somebody needs to be off the team, get them off the team. But for the sake of toxicity at work, you need to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing that's allowing this kind of culture to happen?
So good. I think this is just, I feel like this is just a conversation that not a lot of people take ownership of. And I can really, it's much easier to control things that you have control over. So the fact that I don't have to, the answer is not you can fix the relationship. The answer is you can choose to stop the friendship, or you can choose to remove the person from your team, or because that's now an answer that I didn't really think about, it does make it more motivating and easier to bring the right people on your team or into your life or into your circle, because now you are back in control. You are now in the driver's seat again. So that's helpful for my brain because I don't feel like a victim.
Yeah. Well, and let me ask you this. So, in closing, I want to give you the last word. How can you take control of your situation and be a better leader even this week? Something that would maybe help our listeners and say, hey, I can try this as well. And I do lead people at work. I am a supervisor. I've got a couple people like what do you do? What do you do different to take control, take the reins of the small piece of the world that you control and say, I can be better this week.
I think something that has really helped me, and I was actually talking about this with her because she's dealing with a something at work as well with the people she leads, but it's actually what you already said, and that is to have a conversation with them. And I know that is the hardest part is just addressing them. But I feel like even if you're too scared to actually talk about what's going on, you could even just ask them a question of like, how are you doing? Or how is this team going for you? Or how do you feel like our friendship is right now? Or like just a question that allows them to talk and start the dialogue at least. instead of coming at them hot and bothered and like making yourself look like the jerk. I feel like that's something I've done plenty of times that just backfired on me. When I was trying to show them how I felt, I ended up looking like a complete jerk because that's not their experience. They weren't in that reality. So asking people how they feel and how things are going on their side of things just gives you more insight into the situation so you can make better decisions as a leader in the group.
I love it. This is where you do the closing. So do you know what you're going to say?
Thank you so much for listening to the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast. Even though I have no idea what I'm doing, I really appreciate you listening and bearing with me.
I love it. We'll do it again soon, okay?
Okay, bye.
All right. Thanks, Beck.